Men aren't lost. Are you lost if you went somewhere on purpose and you know where you are? No. But this lady has decided they're lost, and she's providing the map out of the wilderness. Welcome back to Far From Eden. Good to have you. This is the third portion of us reading this article written by Christine Emba, and it is an editorial for the Washington Post. So right away, that tells you a lot about the point of view. And it's literally titled, Men Are Lost, Here's a Map Out of the Wilderness. The first video we talked about, it was the introduction, so I read that, reacted to it. This second one, yesterday's video, was her talking about what the right's solution to the problem is. There's a problem, but it's not that they're lost. The problem is the reason they've walked away. And the problem isn't that they walked away. That's a solution. That's the only solution that makes any sense, really, when you're facing, marriage certificates that basically, if she breaks it, she wins. Cash and prizes, as Better Bachelor likes to say. That's an excellent way to frame it, because that's what happens. And the cash and prizes are his money and their children. She gets those. It's starting to change in the courts, at least from what I'm seeing. I watch a lot of court on YouTube, and it seems that some of the women are started to be treated like equals, which is exciting. Not because that's what I think is how it should be, but if they want equal rights, they should take equal lefts. So they should, if they want all these rights, in fact, women have privileges beyond what men have, then they need to have the responsibilities that go along with it. And part of that is, hey, you also need to pay child support. You need to provide housing. You need to get a job. If you want equality, then here it comes. Anyway, I digress. Today's portion of this editorial, which is really long, and I find that people who need to use a lot of words to talk about something that's actually very simple, well, that's sort of like for lack of a better term, the BS-o-meter goes off. This portion is a mainstream reluctance to define or speak up for men. All right, let's see what she means by that. Ronan Bray was swigging directly from a half-gallon of apple cider as we sat outside in Gainesville, Florida last autumn. It's seasonal, right? A baby-faced 19-year-old University of Florida freshman with short, white blonde hair, Bray was wearing a hoodie despite the heat. He grew up in Sarasota, so he was used to it. He had agreed to talk to me about how he saw uncertainties about masculinity playing out on his campus. Okay. First, he laid out his liberal Gen Z bona fides. He is in a fraternity, but many of his close friends are LGBTQ+. He feels that old versions of masculinity might be dissolving for the better. quote, "There's a lot more of an effort now to broaden the idea of what masculinity really can be," he said, "and how there can be strength in doing some things that ordinarily would be considered feminine, like talking about your feelings or crying in front of others." Yeah, because that's what women want men to do. That's who, started encouraging that kind of a thing. Encouraging little boys to talk about their feelings more, keep on. And that's just not how boys operate. I actually have a theory, and that is that these moms, and this is just my theory, are sort of talking to their sons about your feelings, and they won't stop. And I think that, as children do, I think that these little boys are kind of figuring out that's how you please mom. And I almost think that they're sort of manufacturing some feelings, you know what I mean? Or emphasizing whatever, because they know that's what their mom wants to hear. Now, it could be two things: that they want to please mom, because little boys really do want to please their moms more so than little girls. They want to please their moms, but also it's the only way to make her stop. Like, I already want to go out and play, so can I just, I don't know. I would be so interested to hear what you guys think about that. You guys are the men. You know what I mean? I am not here like this lady to sit here and tell you that you're lost, or tell you how to leave or get out or whatever. Like, that's not my place. And that's fine. I know that I can hear it in my head when I say something that would set off the feminists. Like, I can almost hear them when they're like, that's not my place. Like, oh my gosh, you can't say that anything's not your place. Some things aren't my place. And that's fine. And I think everybody should recognize where their lane is. And there's one group that doesn't, and it's women. Anyway, I just want to know what you guys think about that. Anyway, so this guy, I also always want to know, like, I would love to know, and maybe he'll say, if this college freshman, I would like to know if he was raised by both of his parents in the home. That would be interesting. And I think it's funny. It's like, on one hand, for the conservative thing, you're going to talk to Jordan Peterson, or she didn't even talk to him. She just picked these random people from the right and called one of them Andrew Tate. You guys should watch the video from yesterday if you haven't. And those are supposedly the ones from the right. And now it's a college freshman who is, we're talking about the mainstream reluctance. So if that's the mainstream, oh boy, that's disturbing. So, okay, well, there you go. Let's continue and benefit from the knowledge of this college freshman. But then he got candid. He doesn't really identify with the manosphere. Really, I'm surprised. Are you guys as shocked as I am? He told me, but can understand why others might. Quote, "I feel like there's a lot of room to be proudly feminine, but there's not, in my opinion, the same room to be proudly masculine." That's true. He's actually right. I agree with that. Proudly feminine. For a man to be proudly feminine. Okay. Wow. Whew. Men were constantly told to be better and less toxic, he said, but what that better might look like seemed hard to pin down. You pretty much have to figure it out for yourself, but yet society still has the expectation that, you have to be a certain way. So he's saying that men are constantly told to be better and less toxic, but he doesn't know what that better looks like, whatever. But it's like, Well, maybe if you don't know what that better looks like, maybe that side that's telling you to be better and less toxic is full of baloney. But he's not seeming to question that. He's just like, oh my gosh, I know you want me to jump through hoops, but I don't know which hoops to jump through. Why don't you just stand firm in your convictions, dude? That's a masculine trait that would be something that, maybe you could think about. But instead, he's just like, I don't know how to please society. That's herd mentality. Okay. Then he turned wistful. Quote, I don't feel like men in general have the same types of role models that women do, even in their own personal lives. Just because you're in the majority doesn't mean you don't need support. What do you guys think about that? Technically, men are slightly in the minority in the United States. I'm laughing because that makes it difficult to say they're the oppressors, dang it. But I bet she's gonna try. But apart from that, Bray had a point. And what he said explained a lot about why the left and the mainstream are losing men. Oh, she knew to put the left and the mainstream together. Was that like accidental confession? I swear, if you pay attention, they say what they're doing. So, Yeah, the left and the mainstream losing men. Of course they are. In 2018, the American Psychological Association released its Guidelines for Psychological Practice with Boys and Men. Oh, I bet that's fun. Which it described in a news release as declaring that traditional masculinity marked by stoicism, competitiveness, dominance, and aggression is, on the whole, harmful. Well, that's infuriating. Just give me a second. Okay. Stoicism, competitiveness, dominance, it's the dominance of competence. Hence, competitiveness, competition. There are some really smart guys in the chat. I was thinking about this. Is competition a derivative of competency? Are those two related? Because it seems to me that whoever wins the competition is the most competent. And that's a meritocracy. And we know the ideology, aka cult, that is against meritocracy and competition, and even, the most competent person getting the job or what have you, because everybody should be equal. That's communism. But we've already established in the last videos, you guys said to me, this is Marxism. This is just Marxism. And I think you're right. Wow, okay. I'm gonna read that again. I didn't get mad enough the first time. Oh my God, okay. So this is from the American Psychological Association. So you can imagine what therapists are like, right? Because therapists are, they fancy themselves psychologists. And so this is like their doctrine. And it's practiced with boys and men. So this is like how they approach it. Oh, Lord have mercy. Declaring that traditional masculinity marked by stoicism, competitiveness, dominance, and aggression towards bad people, aggression towards injustice. is on the whole harmful. The guidelines suggest that, quote, there is a particular constellation of standards that have held sway over large segments of the population, including anti-femininity, achievement, eschewal of the appearance of weakness and adventure, risk, and violence, and that these standards are damaging to mental and physical health. Really? Well, how is everybody's physical and mental health today, with masculinity being torn down and called toxic and men being told to be more feminine, be in touch with your feminine side? I know the millennials heard that a lot, because as I was sort of coming of age, like 18, 19, that's when you heard more of that. You heard that metrosexual thing, and it was basically encouraging femininity in men. So this wants to say that masculinity is damaging to mental health and physical health. At the same time, they're trying to say that fitness and all that is associated with masculinity is wrong. So how is fitness? Okay, yeah. I don't know why I argue with these people. I don't know why I try to apply logic, and I get frustrated when it cannot be done. But I don't know. I don't know. Conservatives raged. I guess that's what I was just doing. But I don't want to be labeled any one thing. But progressives mainly shrugged. That's because the mid-2010s were the high watermark of anti-male sentiment in progressive spaces. As the hashtag #MeToo movement rose, with its tales of horrendous male behavior and ensuing corporate cover-ups, ban men became a rallying cry. Yeah, they were tales of horrendous male conduct, because most of them were stories, just fictional. I still love Bill Cosby, because I'm sorry, I don't believe any of that was against what they wanted. That's just a side note, just sharing, I don't believe it. I think I honestly, here's my tinfoil hat. I think they wanted somebody like Bill Cosby removed from public discourse because of his viewpoints. I don't think that those viewpoints were going to be very welcome in the upcoming years, and that's all I'll say about that. Anyway, quote, ban men became a rallying cry. The word masculinity seemed to rarely appear without the descriptor toxic accompanying it. Blamed for everything from grape culture to climate change. Grape culture does not exist in this country. It exists in other cultures, in other parts of the world. That's all I'll say about that. Because my audience knows what I'm talking about. You guys, you know what I'm talking about. Even today, some progressives react touchily to any efforts to help men as a group. Yeah, they do. They do. In 2014, President Barack Obama announced the My Brother's Keeper initiative, a $200 million program meant to improve the lives of at-risk boys and men of color. The pushback came immediately. More than 1,000 women signed an open letter criticizing the program for not including girls. More recently, when news circulated in 2022 that President Biden's $1.2 trillion Infrastructure Act would likely create thousands of jobs for working class men, MSNBC pundit Joy Reid dismissively called it a white guy employment act. Oh my gosh. Hey ladies. Hey, if they're going to build bridges and, create construction jobs and all that, nobody's saying you can't do it. Why are these jobs for men? They're not keeping you back. Are you mad because they're not in air-conditioned offices where you just move some papers around and pretend like you're working and answer the phone and don't help anybody and manage things, but you're not really managing, you're just bossing people around and walking around looking important? Because that's what I see as woman jobs now. For the most part, it's just silly. They're not excluding you from these jobs. Oh my gosh, that's embarrassing. Oh, you women are so embarrassing. If you want construction jobs, go get construction jobs. I'd like to see some women roofers. Not really, but I'd like to see them try. That would be fun. As a result, there's a temptation to minimize men's problems or erase references to masculinity altogether. One Democratic strategist told me about how specific references to men in political speeches are often stripped out for fear of offense or to signal broader inclusivity. A father staying up late worrying about losing his job, for instance, used as an illustrative example in a speech about healthcare, is turned into a non-specific parent. Yeah, because you can't reveal that men care about their children, that men worry about their families. I'll tell you this, they don't want to show that you guys have a heart. They want you to talk about your feelings all day and be more feminine, but the last thing they want is to reveal the truth, and that is that you guys have a heart and you care about society. That you care about each other. That you care, that you actually love your children to the point that you would die for them. I know that women say that a lot, but who's the one jumping in front of buses and running into burning buildings? And who does that? Who gets down into the rushing creek and goes and saves a kitten? Who does those sacrificial things? And why do they do them? Men do them because they have giant hearts and they know what love is. I've said this on several of my videos. Men can love. They know what love is. Their hearts can be broken. They're stoic because life goes on and things have to function. They don't have the luxury of falling apart. It isn't because, they don't care or it isn't as important to them. It's that's actually part of their sacrifice. They don't have the luxury. The guy who, I don't even know how the electric grid works. I don't even know what keeps it running. But I know that men keep it running. And I know I flip the switch and the lights come on. And I'm sure thankful for that. But I know that the men who do those sorts of things, the men who protect, provide, keep society running from their family to the society at large, they don't have the luxury of a mental health day. That's ridiculous. I think about men in the coal mines. The way I was raised and where, my people come from, I at least was told about coal miners and their families and the poverty because my mom liked Loretta Lynn, Coal Miner's Daughter, and we had the soundtrack and she explained to me, proud to be a coal miner's daughter, that whole song. And I understood, at least at a young age, like oh yeah. And then we traveled to the UK, and we went to Wales, and we went down in a coal mine, and it was terrifying. And we were in an elevator, and it was for tourists, and I was terrified. And I remember thinking about a coal miner's daughter, and I remember thinking, her dad did this, but they didn't have an elevator. Do you know what I mean? Like, this whole thing could collapse. And he did that every day. He worked in the dark, in the dust, where the whole thing could collapse on him every single day for his family. Anyway, so I learned about that. And those men didn't go, I'm just so upset right now. They didn't do that. They didn't go, I heard a rumbling. I'm scared. I don't feel comfortable right now. They didn't do that. It's ridiculous. And so and in your hearts and minds, you men, you may not be coal miners, but you still have that. That's still what you're made of. You're made of the same stuff. And this stuff is baloney. And you can't go crying in the streets, because even if you don't think it consciously, everything will come crumbling down if you just let it go and look around. It is. Anyway. Boy, where was she? The guidelines suggest that there is particular damaging to mental and physical health. Oh boy. Even today, some progressives react touchily. Oh yeah, we read that. And Barack Obama. As a result, there is a temptation to minimize men's problems or erase references to masculinity altogether. Oh yeah, I already read all that. Boy, this stuff fries your brain. I know somebody commented yesterday about my video, and they said, how hard is it to read? You know what? It's actually pretty hard. Not because I can't read, but because the ideas in this are so off-putting. Yeah, it rattles me. It rattles me. And so then it does make it difficult to read. I don't want to not be rattled by this stuff. This should be off-putting. This should be, and I am a woman, and I'm not stoic. I'm not. I try. But yeah, you're gonna see me rattled. You're gonna see me stutter. You're gonna see me lose my place. Especially when this is affecting, affecting me emotionally. The strategist described his party as having almost an allergy to admitting that some men might, in fact, be struggling in a unique way and could benefit from their own tailored attention and aid. Quote, but when you strip out the specificity, people feel less seen, he said. There's less of a resonance. If the question is what scripts we have for men, how are we appealing to men, then being willing and able to talk about men is a pretty key component of that. Okay. What ends up happening is that if women are still seen as needing tools to overcome disadvantage, men are often expected to just shape up by themselves. For a group that can be focused to a fault on addressing microaggressions, it's surprisingly acceptable for those on the left to victim blame men who are struggling themselves. Yeah. Quote, so we just let men off the hook? Maybe we should give them electroshock therapy for their hysteria, a progressive female friend of mine joked when I told her about this essay. Excuse me. She said, what? She said, so we just let men off the hook? Maybe we should give them electroshock therapy for their hysteria? Maybe we should turn that the other way around? and say that a guy said that about women needing electroshock therapy, and see, wow, they can really say whatever they want, can't they? It can be. Who's aggressive now? Let them off the hook for what? What? What did they do? Say it. To the extent that any vision of non-toxic masculinity is proposed, it ends up sounding more like stereotypical femininity than anything else. Guys should learn to be more sensitive, quiet, and socially apt, seemingly overnight. It's the equivalent of learn to code as a solution for those struggling to adjust to a new economy, simultaneously hectoring, dismissive, and jejune. Okay. Yeah. So stop it. The thing is, I get it. I understand the reluctance to spend time worrying about men. Again, say that the other way around. And I say that as someone who loves them, as friends, partners, and members of my family. Oh, I don't think you do. Maybe you need to. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. Justifiably, progressives want to preserve the major gains made for women over the past several decades. Gains that are still fragile. It's easy to mistake attention as zero sum, to fear that putting effort towards helping men might mean we won't have space for women anymore. My head's gonna explode, you guys. There is something appealing to about the idea of gender neutrality, or at least rejecting gender essentialism. That's called let's erase God's creation. Let's erase, or nature, the laws of nature. Let's erase reality. Gender essentialism. Yeah, it's kind of essential. It's kind of what procreates things. It's kind of essential. As a social ethos. After all, attaching specific traits to men will I'm getting mad again. I gotta slow down. Breathe. After all, attaching specific traits to men will redound to women too. If we say real men are strong, does that mean real women must be weak? If men are leaders, are women destined to follow? Yes. Yes, that's true. Yes. I'm glad you asked. Okay. Woo! I'm convinced that men are in a crisis, and I strongly suspect that ending it will require positive vision of what masculinity entails, that is particular, that is neither neutral nor interchangeable with femininity. Still, I find myself reluctant to fully articulate one. There is a reason a lot of the writing on the crisis in masculinity ends at the diagnosis stage. Take Richard Reeves' book of Boys and Men, omnipresent in the discourse since its 2022 release. The Brookings Institution scholar has offered wonky potential solutions. Redshirting boys by delaying kindergarten entry 1 year, creating scholarships for men in HEAL, that's health, education, administration, and literacy jobs, but even he acknowledges he has felt pressure to shy away from some of the harder questions his subject matter raises. Interesting. Reeves told me that in his writing he tried to stay descriptive, only going so far as saying there are some differences between the sexes that need to be taken into account to create the most viable solutions. Duh. Sorry. He frames the biological differences between the sexes not as a binary, but as overlapping distributions of traits, aggression, risk appetite, sex drive, with clusters of one sex or the other at the extremes. Is that really his opinion? Or that's reality. But also it is binary. I'm sorry. Men and women are very, very different, and we are created to be complementary. Man, women hate that. Why? Why? What is the deal? I know, you guys are like, I thought you'd tell us. We're crazy. We are crazy. We are so crazy. But when it came to writing any kind of script for how men should be, the self-possessed expert scholar faltered. Quote, that's a question I basically dodged in the book. He didn't falter. I think he knows. I think he knows who's in control. Reeves told me, because candidly, it's outside of my comfort zone. It's more personal. It's harder to empirically justify. There are no charts I can brandish. End quote. After all, as he said, he's a think tank guy, a wonk. All right. Quote, but I think I'm now trying to articulate more prescriptively, less descriptively, some of these discussions about masculinity and trying to send some messages around it, end quote. Here his speech became emphatic, quote, because honestly, nobody else is effing doing it except the right. Well, I mean, the left is pushing. No, the left, this is the left telling right here. In disguise. That's the problem. Oh my gosh. What a lie. Maybe it's not a lie. Maybe she believes it. I don't know. Oh, Reeves, who is launching his own institute focused on men and boys, knows there's a danger inherent in seeming too eager to help men or too intent on promoting a particular vision of masculinity. For sure. I know I need to get this channel up on Locals and Rumble because I know the inevitability. Because I know I'm speaking up for men. And if you speak up for men, well, you hate women. I'm speaking up for women too. I'm speaking up for mothers. I'm speaking up for those who don't think that career is the be-all, end-all. And that's dangerous. Mostly it's dangerous, you know to whom? The state. But I digress. Quote, as soon as you start articulating virtues, advantages, good things about being male, then you've just dialed up the risk factor of the conversation, he said. But I'm also acutely aware that the risk of not doing it is much greater, because without it, there's a vacuum, and along came Andrew Tate to make Jordan Peterson look like a cuddly old uncle, end quote. No, as we said before in the chat from yesterday's video, we think Andrew Tate came along because Jordan Peterson didn't make for a good villain. And they needed to vilify men and masculinity and anybody who celebrates it or encourages it 12 Rules for Life is just good advice. And they just tried to turn him into the evil lobster man, and it just didn't stick. So, woo, Andrew Tate comes in, and they go, oh yeah, he's the guy. And I'm like, this is not who these men are looking at. Only young, lost, guys are looking to like an Andrew Tate, same as they would a gang leader or some other, seemingly masculine person, but they're not. I love how and I don't love everything about Dr. Peterson. I don't like, his daughter, like, hello, she divorced her husband, she had a baby, you know what I mean? Like, that's not good. But anyway, and it speaks volumes. His wife's a career person, or I think was. Anyway, yeah, I'm not like, I don't follow anybody where it's like, I believe 100% what they think. Anyway, I totally lost my train of thought. But Andrew Tate, he made for a better villain. And so rather than attaching all the masculinity and pro-male, things to Jordan Peterson, they attached it to Andrew Tate. And, oh yeah, the gang member, and just following that, it's a skewed idea of masculinity in general. And of course they want us to think that that's what it's all about. And then they can criminalize it. And it's like, yeah, well, he's kind of a pimp. Real, I don't want to sit here and say, I'm not defining what real men are. I'm listening to you guys. And it seems like you guys want families, want to be, a protector and a provider, want to have a complementary, cooperative relationship with a woman, where there is mutual respect and admiration and appreciation and forgiveness back and forth both ways, sacrifice in different ways. But they can't say that. That sounds way too good. You sound like a bunch of good guys. Dang it. So they have to paint you all as these evil villains. I find it very interesting that towards the end here, she just used quotes, 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 quotes. I mean, the last 1, 2, the last like 4 paragraphs are just quotations from Reeves, talking about how you can't really articulate advantages about being male without it being risky. But she didn't say why. Okay, there is an elephant in this room. Not my room. There's a unicorn. Oh yeah, brought the unicorn back in case you didn't see the last video. It's not supposed to be that I'm a unicorn. It's a blanket from my sister because I had a white horse when I was younger. Anyway, Bosco. Oh, my brain is all over the place, you guys. I know, it's annoying. It annoys me too. It's all quotations from him because nobody can say it. She can't even say it. She has to have him say that you can't say it. And the elephant in the room is nobody's saying the reason you can't say it. Nobody's saying who is shutting us all up. Nobody's saying like, women are the ones trying to define what masculinity should be. Women are the ones saying men can't say this, men can't be this way, and they're raising their sons to also think men can't be this way. Men can't, this is bad, like that college freshman. I feel like he was definitely influenced by a bunch of women who taught him that masculinity, the things that are masculine, stoicism, etc., are bad, and that all aggression is bad. No, you need aggression if you want to. Okay, if let's say you're a married couple and there's a scary noise downstairs. Well, who goes to check out the noise? Regardless of where women fall on this, they always want the man. They're not going downstairs to see what the noise is about. Do you want him to go down there and be in his feelings? Or do you want him to go down there and be aggressive? So you can't say aggression is bad. It's necessary. Is it tend to be off-putting to women naturally? Yeah. I mean, we go, ooh, because I think we inherently know that we are weaker physically. And that's not our lane. So anyway, yeah, they're not talking about who's shutting them up, who wants to shut me up. They're not talking about that. And at the end of the day, they're definitely not going to talk about the state, who I think benefits the most. So thanks for listening and putting up with me getting lost in my own train of thought. This is just, I did not realize how infuriating this article would be. I don't know why. It took me by surprise. That's kind of silly, but it did. So I appreciate you guys, and thanks for hanging out. And we have the next one. Is this the last one? Let's see. I mean, she went on and on, right? This is on and on. No, it's not the last one. Okay, well, we'll probably do the last two as one because it's the same thing. The next one is a new script for men. Aren't you guys so, I mean, you're waiting with bated breath, right? And then the last and final one is called A Path Forward. I know, you can't wait because you're like, just tell me what to do, lady. Take care of yourselves. Find something that feeds your soul. There is something. And you do have a purpose. You do. You know how I know? Because you're here. And I once thought that about myself too. And some days it gets dark. But if you're here, there's a reason. It's not an accident. We are way too complex, and we are way too much of each as an individual for you to be an accident. So many things had to come together for you to be here, and nothing can end the purpose for it. So you just have to keep breathing in and out and keep looking for nourishment for your soul till you find it. And you could be serving a purpose that you're not even aware of. You don't know how you affect people. You really don't. But I know that I love you guys, and I try to, respond to as many comments as I can. I am so far behind on emails. I've got a computer problem that I'm dealing with, and I want to respond to emails with typing so that it's not on my phone. I do take forever, but I keep thinking I'm going to resolve the computer issue, and I haven't yet. So bear with me, and I will get back to you. I really will. I will get back to you. Anyway, I love you guys. Take care of yourselves. And I will see you guys on the next one, where we will finally finish this never-ending essay and move on to other things. Thanks, you guys. Take care.